Good afternoon. My name is Claire Haberline from Southwest Wisconsin Technical College in Fenimore, Wisconsin. Today we're going to be talking about successful record keeping for breeding and sire management. So why should we keep breeding records? Who cares? What's it matter? We really need kidding dates. We need to know when we need extra labor. We need to know when those does are due to feed them nutritionally correct. We need to know who to keep and who to cull. If somebody got bred of the wrong buck, if somebody got bred of the wrong breed, as well as if somebody has bad milk production. We need to know those records. We need to know who bred which does, which buck really did the job and which buck didn't. We also need to know registration information. If we're registering our stock, we obviously need to know who the dad is, who the mom is, and projected due dates and such. Breeding records are really going to add value to your herd, especially if you start selling breeding stock. What type of records should we be keeping? We need to keep breeding dates, your buck information, and your dam information. This isn't super hard. It's not rocket science. All you need is the date they got bred, the doe, and the buck. You could also add another section if you were doing a form like this for when they kidded and what the kids were, males or females, and kid IDs. How will you know which doe is the buck bred? There's two ways to breed. One is hand breeding, where you're going to take each doe when she's in heat to the buck, breed the doe, and put the buck back. And put the buck or doe back, depending on your setup. There's also pen breeding, which is the most common method you're going to see in commercial dairies. This is where you're going to take one buck, you're going to place him with a group of does. He's going to breed those does between a certain time frame. One mature buck can typically breed 25 to 50 goats. You don't want to put 5 bucks in with your herd of goats and just let them breed. You won't know which buck bred who, and typically your dominant buck is just going to end up fighting all the other bucks for breeding rights, and you're going to end up with some beat up bucks. So you want to keep that in mind. In our herd, we breed with one buck for 4 weeks. We take 2 weeks off, and then we breed with the next buck. That way we know who had what. There's different ways to do it, but you can pen breed and still keep track of your records. There's also hand breeding. So if we talk about hand breeding, the pros are obviously you're going to have exact breeding dates. You're going to know exactly who bred that doe. But your cons is somebody is going to be checking those animals to know who's in heat daily. You've got to walk through the herd. You've got to be able to check them. And if you have a doe that has a silent heat or something, you need to know that too. And you need to keep records so that you can figure out how you're going to breed those does. You're going to handle your bucks and does every day, which is going to be a stinky job during breeding season. It is the easiest though for exact records. Then we talk about pen breeding, which is really common with our commercial dairies. Your pros is it's easy. You just place the buck with the does and wait. There's less labor. Your cons is there's not specific breeding dates. You're going to have to ultrasound and know exactly who got bred because you're not going to be seeing it. So you're going to do something like the records on the bottom of this page where you're going to say the buck went in this day, he was there till this day. Here's the does he was in with. And perhaps ultrasound those does in the end so you have a good idea. So your breeding tools. You can use some tools to help you with your breeding records. One is marking chalk. It's a harness and chalk system worn by the buck. It'll leave a chalk mark on each doe bred and used in the breeding pen. We've used this on our farm. We're not currently using it because we found we went through way too much chalk and it wasn't accurate. The buck was oftentimes mounting does that weren't in heat. It did work for us for a while when we first started out. It just depends on your buck, it seems like. Some bucks are going to mount every doe and some bucks are only going to breed the ones that are in heat. Then you've got ultrasounding. This can be done by a veterinarian anywhere from 25 to 60 days after the does are bred for really good records. Some vets can even tell you how far along your goat is, how many kids she's carrying, which can be really helpful if you can nutritionally feed them separately. The resources for this presentation, the photos were courtesy of Mara Dairy, and the literature we used was Dairy Goat Best Management Practices by Clara Hendrick, Dr. Demler, and Dan Considine. Thank you for your time.